Hey, I'm Jessica, and welcome to Reality Check. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode where I check off your list with all of the Love Island podcast interviews. I'm back. I mean, it's not like I took any time off, but you're not used to seeing me 3 days a week this week, and that is just because I'm trying to figure things out. I said in the last episode, Love Island, kicked my butt a little bit. There were so many episodes, so many recaps, and I really just wanted to recenter myself and think, okay, it's the summertime. There are so many summer shows. What does it make sense for me to recap? And so here I am recapping all of the Love Island podcasts. Not all of them, because honestly, there has been so many podcasts that all of the contestants have gone on, right? Like you have Call Her Daddy, you have Nick Viall, you have Harry Jowsey, you have Keke Palmer. The list just goes on and on. There's so many podcasts, multiple podcasts that everyone has gone on. It's a lot. But what I've done is I have listened to quite a lot of them so that you don't have to, because they're long. Huda's was 2 hours. Most of them are an hour plus, definitely over an hour plus, but Huda's was 2 hours. It was insanely long. What I will say is that there was definitely not really any tea dropped in any of these podcasts. And I think the problem is because most of the cast hasn't even watched the show back. So they're talking about their experience on the show, but not talking about what we saw on the show, which I do think is really important, because the way that the show is edited is a lot different than how they've actually experienced, their own experience. So I think maybe that's the case too, because I wonder if the prerequisite, and I hope this is the case, I hope that for the reunion, which is at the end of August, I hope the prerequisite is that they have to watch the show back. Like, I hope it's mandatory for them to sit back and watch it, because to me, that's how we're going to get all of the answers that we still have. Like, I feel like, yes, the hosts have been asking them questions, but I still feel like we're missing so many of the answers. Like, you take the challenge with Huda and Ace and everyone saying Huda sitting on Ace's face. Like, everyone is kind of dodging the question. And I just want Andy Cohen to be like, look, did you put your ass in his face or not? Is this what happened? Because Huda on Call Her Daddy said she absolutely did not do that. Yet everyone kind of is like, yeah, I can see why Chelley was upset. She, maybe did take it a little bit too far, but, it was just a challenge and we were having fun. Like, I'm tired of everyone dancing around the subject. Let's just hone in on the answer. So I think them not watching the show is a big problem in these interviews for sure. There definitely hasn't been a lot of tea spilled at all. Maybe a few things here and there, but nothing like earth-shattering, nothing like, oh my gosh, this is what Chris said about Huda. No, not at all. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of them were kind of surface level, I would say. Kind of surface level. Like, the host would ask the question and then move on. Like, they really weren't digging in at them to get the answers that we're all looking for. I also wonder if maybe that's what the hosts were told to do, right? Like, we have to save the tea and all the tea spilling for the reunion. So I don't know. I think that reunion is going to be very spicy for sure. It's going to be crazy, especially like, I'm like, is Sierra going to be allowed to go to the reunion? I don't know, right? Like, I mean, if she was kicked off the show and kicked off of having that platform, why would they bring her to the reunion? So I don't know, but I have so many thoughts on Sierra and that reel that she put out. Like, let me just get into that now, because honestly, Sierra, this girl needs to get off social media right now. You've said that you've, taken accountability. You put out this 6-minute long reel. And let me just say this too. She puts out her apology video. And at first, I was like, okay, this seems like a decent apology. She's taking accountability. It didn't seem very PR-ish at a first glance. But then, when I sat with it, and I watched it again, and I talked with friends about it, and I talked to one of my actually Asian friends about it, she pointed a few things out to me that I didn't necessarily realize. So number one, the empathy sweater. Like, no. Like, that is just, again, that is very PR-ish. And that's, again, I didn't realize she was wearing an empathy sweater until a friend brought it to my attention. Like, it was hard to read. And so I'm like, okay, that's weird. Why are you wearing an empathy sweater? Like, it just is like you're apologizing, but then you're trying to do the most with what you're wearing and your accessories. And then again, that brings me into this, which my Asian friend brought this out to me, is that she was wearing a jade necklace, which again is very big in the Asian culture. Just jade like stones in general. So then I was like, side-eyeing a little bit, like it's one thing to, I think with Sierra, she is well-spoken. So I think for her, I took that apology and I was like, okay, words are just words at the end of the day. We've seen this. If you're a Bachelor Nation fan, we've seen many of apologies, right? So many. Let's take it back to Rachel Kirkconnell. If you know, you know. She has really changed the trajectory for herself because, she came out with this, she held herself accountable, but then proceeded to really just show through actions in how she was holding herself accountable and how she was taking the necessary steps to move forward and to move on and to grow, right? And we saw that through her actions, and she just seems like the most genuine person there is. I've just heard so many amazing things about her. That's how you hold yourself accountable to a high standard, right? So then Sierra comes out with this reel. And at this point, it's like, look, the Islanders are out of the villa. If you want to go to Greece and get away from all of the outside noise, I think that's a fantastic idea. But stay off social media. She puts out this reel, okay? And I'm going to read it to you. It says, it's that everyone is posting that it's like, going viral where it's like, you look happier, thanks. And then you proceed to say why you're happier. So she goes, you look happier, thanks. I booked a flight to Mykonos after surviving the villain edit on reality TV. And I didn't end up with the guy who never actually liked me and wanted my friend the entire time. Sierra, what are you doing? Literally, what are you doing? Like, first of all, you did not have a villain edit. You had probably one of the best edits out of everyone on that show. Almost everyone was so on board with you. Everyone liked you. I mean, everyone is a very broad statement, but like in general, majority of people like Sierra. I like Sierra. I thought she was one of my favorites. I thought she was normal. I really loved how well-spoken she was. She seemed very mature. She seemed very mature for her age, and I liked her. She had one of the best edits, period. And so again, for her, knowing probably that she never even watched the show, for her to now come out and say that she survived a villain edit is bizarre to me. Like, it's like, Sierra, you know what you did and why you were removed from the villa was because of your actions, right? Like, it was because of your own doing. It was because of the story that you put out on social media over 6 months ago and the words that you said on social media over 6 months ago. That's why you were removed from the villa. There was zero villain edit. None. So I'm like, do you not know what a villain edit means? I would hope that you know what a villain edit means. You're not using your words correctly. So I just thought, man, Sierra, you're already, down for the count. Now you're just making it even worse for yourself. So honestly, she needs to, someone like a good friend, and I believe she's with Johnny from a few seasons previous to this one. that's like a friend of hers, which again goes to show that she really did know the ins and outs of the show, because a really close friend of hers went on the show, and her friend Johnny or whoever needs to sit her down and be like, Sierra, this is not the move. And Johnny was with her. So for Johnny to be like, oh, this is a great idea, I think you should post this, is bizarre to me. Someone close to her needs to literally be like, Sierra, get off social media. She needs to hire a PR. She needs to hire a PR person. After everything that she's gone through, that should have been number one, is hiring a PR person, because a PR person would have never signed off on her putting out this reel, because it makes her look really bad. And then for her to then bring Nick and Olandria into this is bizarre to me. And, you know, it goes to show that, like, a week or two ago, she was liking people's comments of like, Nick Olandria, like, we love Nick Olandria. So people were seeing that she was liking the comments about Nick and Olandria, and they were like, oh, wow, like, Sierra ships them, like, she's mature, like, she's moved on, or she, you know, is okay with them exploring. I think this was while the show was airing. But then now, 2 weeks later, you're, you know, putting out this reel at saying that, oh, this guy never liked you to begin with. Like, come on, right? And it's just like, Nick had the option to choose between you and Beldasha right at the beginning of the show. He then chose you. And throughout the entirety of the show, like, look, at the end of the day, it's Love Island. If he wanted to explore Olandria, then he is allowed to explore Olandria. That is Love Island. Sierra, you were also semi-open to exploring your options with other people. Like, okay, maybe you didn't want to be intimate or kiss them, but like, you were open to exploring a connection with them too. So that's the nature of the show. So the fact that she put this reel out is absolutely wild to me. It's, you know, attention seeking. I want to stay relevant. That's exactly what it is. And if anyone can do her any sort of favors, they need to let her know it is just not the move. First of all, she should delete it. The fact that that reel is still up there, it's been a few days, is insane to me. And it makes her look really bad. And it just, to me, just goes to show that she's not taking accountability for what she said on her social media over 6 months ago. Because if you're going to blame a villain edit on your behavior, then you haven't learned and you haven't grown and you have really lost the plot and everything. So that was disappointing to me, because, I mean, not that I was rooting for her, but it was like, okay, she put out a reel, and now, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, you didn't mean any of those words. And that's exactly what I said. Words are just words. It's by actions is how people are going to see that you're changing. And her first action after posting that reel is this reel. Like, your true colors have truly shown. And that to me, it's like all the more reason now for Nick and Olandria to explore, because Nick, I'm sorry, like, I love Nick. Nick can do way better. I'm sorry. So Nick and Olandria, I'm shipping them right now. And yeah, it's just, she needs to get off social media. Someone close to her needs to do her a solid favor and give her that advice. So anyways, that's Sierra. And I'm going to recap a few, or not even recap, but just talk about a few of the podcasts that I listen to. I've listened to many, but I just figured there's so many out there. I just figured I want to talk about, you know, the most, to me, interesting ones, relevant ones. Obviously, we're going to talk about Huda on Call Her Daddy. That was 2 hours long, like I said. So that was a lot. There was a lot going on. It was a heavy interview. I would say out of all the interviews, it was the most heaviest. It started from her talking about her childhood up until present times. It was very in-depth, which all of the other interviews that I've watched were not. I'm obviously going to talk about Amaya on Call Her Daddy. Thought it was just overall just a great interview, because Amaya is just a great person. I'm going to be talking about Olandria and Chelley on Keke Palmer, and then also Chris on The Vile Files, which, if you know me, the fact that I listened to the hour-long Chris interview on The Vile Files is crazy, because I cannot stand Nick Viall. Like, I can't, like, though his interview style is so frustrating to me, and he makes it all about himself. I'm sorry. So the fact that I listened to it, I've done everyone a solid, because there was actually some tea sprinkled into that podcast. So let's start with Amaya, because for me that was just so lighthearted. I think Amaya just, I mean, you know, it goes without saying, she is just so wholesome. She is full of energy. She is just so real. And this girl has literally no media training. None of these people, I don't think, have had media training. I mean, we'll get into Huda and the issues with Huda and her having no media training, and she needs to have it. But anyways, Amaya, the fact that she has no media training is just, it's so wholesome. And I mean, she's just so her, you know, like, you have to really give it to her. She is truly herself on TV and also in these podcasts. Like, has always been herself. And that is what I really love about Amaya, is she is just so genuine. And it was a refreshing interview to watch, because she was just herself, you know? And it really bothers me that the people in the villa, everyone in the villa, the way that they treated her on the show before finding out that she was America's, you know, sweetheart, essentially, it sucks. Like, that is, to me, it's so unfair, because I don't know how her relationship is with the other Islanders. Like, it seems like she's closer to, like, Huda than, say, like, Olandria and Chelley. I think that's kind of what I'm seeing. But it just sucks that, like, the guys in particular, and even some of the girls, like, the way that they treated her before finding out that she was America's #1 gal is really upsetting. And it sucks, you know, it sucks of the change up. And she is very aware. She said it on Call Her Daddy, like, she's aware of how people, you know, we saw it in the stand-up, what was that challenge called? Stand on Business. We saw it on that challenge, where not one girl, not one guy, except for Brian, came to her defense, didn't even say anything like, guys, like, cut it out, or say to Austin, say to Ace, like, cut it out. She said it. No one came to my defense except for Brian. And that was hurtful. And I think, had people have known how America had perceived her at that time, that wouldn't have even have happened, that Stand on Business challenge. So it's just like, you should not all need public validation to treat someone with basic decency. You know what I mean? And it's really upsetting. And I hope that she's aware of it, right? Like, I know she's aware of it because she said it, but I hope she doesn't forget it. Like, I hope whoever that she still keeps in touch with in the villa and, you know, is super friendly with and is close, like, I just hope that she doesn't forget how they treated her before them knowing how America perceived her, you know, because I don't want anyone to be her friend for wrong intentions. That's just not right? Like, that's just not the move. So I don't know. She mentioned that, then this is again where I don't know. I feel iffy on Alex's interview style sometimes, because I mean, I'll talk about it, especially in Huda's interview, but I find Alex doesn't necessarily, like, deep dive into certain things. Like, she'll kind of, I don't know, like, she'll kind of, like, agree with the person that she's interviewing and then move on, or just, okay, move on. And I felt like she did that in this instance, where we know that so many of the Islanders knew each other outside of the show, right? And we heard on another podcast, I can't remember which one, I think it was like Jeremiah said it, that Chelley and Amaya actually knew each other outside of the villa. And obviously they didn't know that each other were going to be in the villa. So Alex asked the question of, and she said it about everyone. She didn't say it about her and Chelley. She was like, you know, it's come out that many Islanders know each other outside of the villa. Like, can you talk about that or whatever? And Amaya just talked about how she knew Chelley. And it's interesting, like, she said that both of them worked with the same photographer and they followed each other and kind of were each other's, like, hype girl. Like, oh yeah, like, looking amazing, like, killing it, whatever. but they knew of each other. They didn't know each other personally. I don't think they've ever talked. They knew of each other, right? And that's what she says. But I wish, and then Alex is like, okay, good, and moves on. I'm like, Alex, like, I wish she was like, oh, and I heard that, like, Jeremiah and Nick worked with each other. Like, did you know about that? Like, what about Ace? Like, she asked about Ace and Chelley, but like, there are other people that knew each other, and I wish she asked those questions, because at the end of the day, Call Her Daddy, that platform is the biggest platform for these people to go on right now, right? Like, this interview has over 1 million views. Huda, I think, is at 8 million views. Insane, right? And so if all eyes are going to be on an interview, it's this one. And there are certain instances where I just wish Alex dove deeper into some of the questions, right? But again, there wasn't a lot of tea spilling in this interview. It was kind of, we knew everything that Amaya said. It was just kind of like a feel-good interview and just a breath of fresh air, honestly. And I love Amaya. I just think she's so hilarious. So for me to listen to her for an hour and 20 minutes, it wasn't work, versus like listening to Chris on Nick Viall for an hour. That was work. So I didn't mind listening to her. In every single interview that I listened to, the heart rate challenge did come up. And again, this kind of goes into a little bit of my frustration with Alex and all the other hosts in particular. But again, I wonder too if maybe they were told you can't dive deep and you can't maybe ask very specific questions about the heart rate challenge. And it comes up, obviously, of like, there's word online about what Huda potentially did to Ace, because the way that it was cut, we didn't really see, like, she was kind of like down, her butt near his face, but then it cuts and they move up, and then Chelley's upset and whatever. And, every single person, I can just say this blanket statement, every single person that was asked about the heart rate challenge and Huda and Ace specifically just danced around the question. Literally did not say anything in specifics as to what happened, which is so frustrating. And this is where I'm like, okay, Andy Cohen, you need to ask Huda, point blank period, like specifically, or Ace actually, because maybe Ace doesn't have anything to lose at this point. Specifically, did Huda put her ass in your face? Like, and what exactly happened? Like, we need the question. We need the answer, because every single person, I mean, it's telling. Everyone is dancing around the subject, and Amaya, kind of did the same. She confirmed it without confirming it. She didn't deny it, that Huda, in fact, did put her ass in Ace's face. And I mean, the only person that really did deny it was Huda. With Alex, she said, no, like, it was never in his face. It was maybe, by his chest. Come on, Huda. Like, my God, if everyone is saying, dancing around the subject and not really saying it verbatim, but like kind of confirming it, but not, but kind of, where I'm going to believe everyone except you, and it just spews into all the lies that Huda was kind of saying on the podcast, and a lot of, accountability that she was absolutely not taking on the podcast. Again, I will get into Huda very, very shortly. But yeah, this heart rate challenge, everyone is trying to get that answer out of what exactly happened. I think the consensus, again, Huda aside, the consensus is that Chelley had a right to feel the way that she did. And I mean, even in the interview though, with Keke, Chelley, and Olandria, like, Chelley kind of brushed it off and was like, yeah, like, Huda kind of did her thing and she just wanted to have her moment. But then Olandria was like, no, like, she had a right to feel the way that she felt. Like, Chelley had a right to feel down and to feel upset about it. So I don't know. I think that whole challenge is a mystery, honestly. And I just hope in the reunion, we're going to get some sort of solid, I mean, listen, can you imagine at the reunion, they just play the tapes? They just roll the uncut tapes. That would be absolute tea. But I don't think they could do it. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe it's just way too inappropriate even for streaming. I don't know. But wow. Maybe they blur it. They can blur it. That would be crazy. I haven't heard anyone put that, put that out there of like, roll the tapes. You have this reunion. Let's see it. It's obviously on camera. That would be crazy. Can you imagine? All of them are kind of like arguing about it, what happens at the reunion. And then, because I mean, we've seen this so many times on like Vanderpump reunions or whatever, where he's like, okay, this is what you're saying. Let's roll the tape. Here's what actually happened. That would be crazy. I'm putting it out there. Let's go blur what's happening if it's too inappropriate. But yeah, anyways, we'll see if we get any sort of, evidence as to what happened at the reunion. The last thing that I thought was interesting with Amaya that she said was basically the day that Sierra left, they had no idea that she left. Like, they didn't know where she was. They didn't see her. They were all asking, like, where's Sierra? They didn't see her packing up. Like, they knew nothing. They had no idea why she left. Like, they weren't told anything. They weren't like, oh, Sierra, left because of what she said online. Like, I think it was just like due to a personal reason or whatever it was. So I thought that was interesting because I guess I didn't really think about it, that like they didn't have a chance to say goodbye to her. I thought maybe they would have had a chance to say bye. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what I was really thinking in how that all played out. But yeah, they had no idea. Didn't get to say goodbye. Didn't see her pack. Literally nothing. Like, I guess. And even Amaya was like, we were all in the villa. Like, it wasn't like they were held, into a room or something. Like in Big Brother, if they're like setting up a challenge or like doing something, they'll all be confined into a room, and they'll work on the challenge or whatever. That'll allow them to put the challenge together because they're all confined in a room and they can't leave. But I thought it was interesting where they were like, no, they're going about their normal day, and she was just not there, and they were just told afterwards, like, yeah, she's gone, she's no longer here. So I thought that was interesting. Oh, and the last interesting thing that I thought about what she said was Alex said to her, like, besides you and Brian, who do you think has the best chance of lasting outside of the villa? And she said Nick and Olandria, which I thought was really interesting. So I don't know. I think they look so good together. I'm sorry. And I don't know, like, I still don't know if I buy them. I really don't know. I don't know if they're kind of playing into the public pressure of everyone wanting them to be a thing. I don't know if maybe they are just genuinely exploring and are just seeing it where it goes. I've heard Nick say on a podcast, like, no or maybe it was on a live, he was just like, no labels, like, we're just, having fun, just seeing where this goes. And I don't know, the fact though that she said she thinks that they have the best shot of lasting outside the villa. I mean, think about it, more than Ace and Chelley, which, I mean, I don't really think they're gonna last either, but that was interesting. More than Pepe and Iris. Like, I think Pepe and Iris look so good together. They are looking so good outside of the villa. Like, I am really into them. I could see them lasting. I could. Like, I really like them together. I'm curious for Hannah to go on a podcast. I don't think I've seen Hannah on a podcast post Iris and Pepe. You know what I mean? Like, post them happening, and I want to hear what she has to say. So, yeah, anyways, I thought Amaya's overall interview, it was just a good vibe. Like, if you just want to have a smile on your face for over an hour, I would recommend watching it, but don't expect any sort of tea or earth-shattering information. Like, there was none of it. We knew everything, honestly, but she's just such a fun gal. And give her the views, too. Like, Huda's at 8 million and she's at like over 1. Let's give Amaya the views. She deserves it. So, okay. Let's move on to Huda's interview. And I will start off by saying this. Her interview was very heavy. And, I thought it was interesting because this is the only interview so far that started from like the beginning. Alex was like, let's start with your childhood. Like, before you coming onto the show, I want to learn about you, and let's take it all the way back to your childhood. And she had a very traumatic childhood. She was bullied growing up in a very strict religious home. She, I don't even want to, like, she just experienced an absolute just worst nightmare of any sort of parent that their kid would experience, or just someone that would have to experience that in general, is absolutely, it's heart shattering. Honestly, I feel terrible for her. in what she experienced. And I have to say this, I can't take that away from her. Like, everything that I feel about Huda, like, I have to put that aside and be like, my gosh, like, I do feel really sorry for her. The fact that she did go through what she went through, what she says that she's gone through. And of course, like, I think that she is telling the truth, like, 100%. Like, I never question that. I don't question anything that she said. It sounds absolutely terrible what she went through, and I have so much empathy for her. But the thing that I have to say though is like, what she went through, I think, you know, didn't have didn't have a model father, didn't have a model, like, seeing, you know, her parents fight all the time. That was obviously not model behavior, like growing up super poor and just having really nothing growing up. I think kind of everything is obviously a product, you know, when you get older, and if you don't deal with trauma, then, you know, the way that you act is obviously going to be kind of a product of the trauma that you experienced when you were a kid, right? So I think more than anything is like, Huda needs help. Like, she says that she had a therapist on the show, which is great, but I think that is something that she needs to do, is seek therapy and like start from the beginning, just like Alex started from the beginning, right? It's like therapy as to like everything that she experienced, all the trauma that she experienced as a child is horrible, right? And I need to preface again, like, what I'm going to say next does not negate what she went through as a child. However, my issue with Huda is, in this 2-hour interview, she had every single opportunity to own and take accountability for everything that she did on the show. The way that she treated all of the Islanders on the show, the way that she spoke to Jeremiah, like, she had every opportunity to take accountability. The way that she treated Chris, the way that she acted, like, everything. She took no accountability. And she would maybe be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm sorry, but maybe I shouldn't have done that. But like, there was always a justification to why she acted the way that she did, which was super frustrating. And I also think too, like, everything that you went through also doesn't excuse the way that you act, you know, and the way that you talk to people. Like, that is something that you need to get serious help on. Like, it is, like, you can't go through life treating people the way that you're treating people on the show. Like, I'm sorry. And I think what's really frustrating is, yes, like, I think Alex obviously tried to offer like a safe space, but I also feel like at times she kind of minimized Huda's behavior, which wasn't helpful, right? Like, she would ask Huda like tough questions, or like she would be like, okay, but Huda, like, why would you, you know, say this to Chris? Or like, don't you see how the way that you said this to Chris makes you look bad or whatever? And then Huda would then give her explanation and not take accountability. And then Alex would kind of just like move on. Like, I didn't really feel like Alex held her accountable. And like, you can say like, as an interviewer, that's not her place to hold her accountable. But I think it is. Like, as a really good interviewer, like, I hope that we see Andy Cohen hold her accountable, because Andy Cohen has dealt with all of the ladies, you know, like, he's dealt with a very difficult woman, you know, lots of them. And we've seen him hold, and even like Tom Sandoval, like all the guys, like Jax, like, we've seen him hold these big names, these household names accountable. So how does Huda kind of come in? We think that she's going to come in and he's not going to hold her accountable. No, he's going to definitely hold her accountable and ask her the tough questions. And I think he'll be able to word it in a way that she actually can't dance around it and can't be like, oh yeah, but da da da, you know? So I thought that was frustrating. What I also think is frustrating too is like, Huda has all of these fans, and I think, look, Huda's 24 years old. Her fans are probably 24 years old and younger, and they are really young and enabling her. And I think, I mean, that's doing way more than good, you know? And I don't know. It was such a frustrating interview. It was such a frustrating 2 hours. And I mean, they talked about Jeremiah for at least 45 minutes, like at least 45 minutes. And there was 0 point in that time that she ever took accountability with her actions of Jeremiah. Like, she, just proceeded to constantly say, like, he loved bombed me, and, would basically also too, like, would say, oh, like, that man doesn't deserve my name or his name in my mouth, but blah, 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 and I think too that goes back to Huda not having any PR training. And, when you give someone the mic that doesn't have PR training, and I'm sorry, someone like Huda that can just talk and talk and talk and talk, she just talks. And she is the same person as we saw in the villa. You know what I mean? Like, she just did not stop. And it would take her 5 minutes to actually answer any of Alex's questions, or like barely scratch the surface on Alex's questions, because she would just say what she wanted to say. Like, Alex would ask her a question, and she would talk about what she wanted to talk about, or she'd be like, oh no, let me say this first and then I'll get to your question. She would talk about whatever she wanted to say for 5 minutes, and then Alex would have to bring her back, and then she'd have to answer the question. Like, she needs serious PR training. Like, she would just, and I think that's why the interview was 2 hours, because she didn't stop talking. And if someone doesn't stop talking, they're just going to spew word vomit, and she honestly didn't come across as good in this interview, in my opinion, and you're gonna, her fans are gonna be like, oh my gosh, Huda, like, you killed it. Alex Cooper, like, you nailed it. 8 million views, like, go you killed it. But like, she took absolutely no accountability. She talked about Chris really, really poorly. She talked about Jeremiah really bad. And, she's just spewing out all of these lies, and just things aren't adding up. Like, I'll give you an example. She was talking about Chris so bad. Like, so bad. Didn't have one positive thing to say about him at all. And I really like Chris. I've always liked Chris. I liked him on the show, and listening to him, watching him on Nick Viall's podcast, he is just a cool, calm, collected guy. He was speaking so positively about Huda, right? She was speaking super negatively about him. He said on Nick's podcast, yeah, Huda and I are cool. We are actually staying together right now in LA. We're staying at the same place. Huda says, I haven't talked to Chris. I don't want to talk to him. So who's lying here? Who am I going to believe? I'm going to believe Chris, because Huda has spewed lies since the villa, since day one. So how is that? Like, there were so many conflicting statements happening. I'll give you another example. Huda says in her interview with Alex that she was always there for Amaya. She backed Amaya up. She was always there for her. She, was that one person in the Stand on Business Challenge that she backed her up. Amaya clearly says in Alex's interview, not one girl came to my defense. Yet Huda is going around saying that she came to her defense. So it's just like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because, like, she's given this massive platform. 8 million people have chosen to watch a 2-hour interview with her, yet she's spewing out lies. And it's frustrating, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't think Huda's a bad person. I don't think she's a bad person at all, but I just see someone that is very insecure, has zero self-awareness, and is clearly struggling emotionally. And it doesn't excuse her behavior, right? It doesn't mean she's a bad person, but it doesn't excuse her behavior whatsoever. Another thing that she said about Chris, this one killed me, is, Alex would be like, oh, so, you were intimate with Chris or whatever. She's like, girl, that barely happened. That barely went in, whatever. And it's just like, again, like, she says, okay, yeah, it happened, but it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, yes, but this. And she was like that the whole interview, like, contradicting herself the entire time. It was so frustrating. It was really frustrating to watch and listen to. Oh, another thing too. Oh my gosh. Another thing with Chris. Again, this girl's contradicting herself all the time. So that last scene of them, remember them at dinner breaking up, and in the end, Huda is like, are you gonna walk me across or are you gonna pick me up? And Chris says no. And Huda says Chris never came back for her. Like, she literally had to walk across the thing on her own. And Chris, in his interview with Nick, said, I wasn't gonna carry her, but I would have at least walked with her. So he leaves, and then he said that he came back and offered help, like, oh, I'll help you across, but I'm not going to carry you, because that's kind of like princess treatment, and like, you're not a princess to me because we just broke up. And she's the one that told him no, like, get out of here kind of thing. But on Call Her Daddy, she says like she didn't say that happened at all. Like, she's just like, no, like, he left and I had to walk over. So it's just like, she is really like being strategic in what she's saying. And honestly, again, like I said, just spewing out lies. So at this point, like, look, she has a daughter. I don't think she is really in a place right now to be dating. I mean, she's dating. I mean, I don't know what she's doing. She's in London with someone that was on, I don't remember his name. It's not Leo. It's something. Is it maybe Leo? I don't know. She's out in London with this guy that was on, I think he was on Perfect Match. I don't know what is going on with her. It's just like, Huda, you need to, recenter yourself, seek some help, get out of the spotlight a little bit. But here's the thing too. It's like, obviously she's going to eat all this up because I'm sure she's getting all these opportunities. So I don't know, just very, very frustrating interview for me. She's very frustrating, and I think she just needs help. I do, and I think her fans need to pump the brakes. And I'm just curious to, see how Andy Cohen interviews her at the reunion, because if I know Andy, he's going to hold her accountable. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to be honest, if there's one interview I would say you probably don't need to watch, I mean, it was that one. Because, I mean, like I said, it was a walking contradiction, right? So you're just going to hear her talk for 2 hours and basically not really saying much truth. I would also say the interview that you probably also don't need to watch is Chris, because I'm going to give you very high level notes. But like I said, there was one interesting thing on Chris's interview that I think is tea that I'm not really seeing a lot of people talk about. But like I said, like, he was speaking really highly of Huda. And again, I just think he's chill, he's funny, he's respectful. Like, I have always liked Chris. And the thing about Nick Viall's interview style is he just talks way too much. And I mean, Nick has always been like that. He loves himself so much. He wants to just hear himself talk. And it's frustrating, because I'm like, I want to hear the person that you're interviewing talk. The way that Nick tees up the questions is he asks a question and then puts his opinion and he puts his own experiences. Oh, I don't know if you know about reality TV, but when I was on reality TV, when I was on all 4 seasons of The Bachelor, when I was The Bachelor, like, he just makes it all about himself. And then his questions are like 3 minutes long. So then I have to hear him speak for 3 minutes, and then he then gives the floor to the person he's interviewing, and then he cuts the person he's interviewing off because then he's not hearing his own voice. Like, it's just, yeah, it's really hard to watch an interview from Nick Viall, but he is such a big podcast, so he gets all of the, like, he's literally gotten every single Love Island person on his show pretty much because he is such a big platform, But again, like, Chris spoke about Huda respectfully, and he says, actually, again, Heart Rate Challenge came up. He said he didn't think anything went wrong, anyone did anything wrong in the Heart Rate Challenge, which he said, which I thought was interesting, is everyone consented to what was going to happen in the Heart Rate Challenge. So he said, like, before any challenge, all the Islanders would be like, okay, nothing is off the table. We are going to have fun. We are going to just, do whatever. Like, is everyone okay with anything? Like, consent now. And everyone gave consent. So he was like, in my mind, everyone was okay with anything happening. So I thought that was interesting because I've actually never heard any of the Islanders in any season say anything like that before a challenge, they would actually like acknowledge like, okay, we're going to have fun. This is going to be pure entertainment. Like, and even Amaya said in her interview with Alex, she was like, we just go all out in the challenges because that's literally our form of entertainment. We don't have TVs. We don't have our phones. That is our entertainment. So like, we just go like balls to the wall essentially. So I thought that was interesting because I didn't really think of a challenge in that way of like, it's their own entertainment. But I mean, I also do think too, you can maybe consent all you want, but like at the end of the day, some lines can be drawn, you know? So I don't know. I thought that was interesting to hear. Another thing that was interesting to hear was that he confirmed that him going back into the villa from Casa Amor, like he only had eyes for Chelley at that time, which was very interesting for me. And what I'm not really seeing a lot of people talk about is because I guess we always thought that like he went back into the villa from Casa with eyes for both Huda and Chelley, not just Chelley. So I thought that was interesting because, you know, that was kind of his plan all along, was to go for Chelley, but then obviously things between him and Chelley didn't work out. So then by default, he had to go for Huda, which to me, you know, proceeds to be the thought that I always had, that he never even liked Huda in the first place. I never thought he was into Huda, which is fine. He just wanted to pursue Chelley. I thought that was major T, you know, and it was a bomb, to be honest, but he just said it so nonchalantly. I never believed he was into Huda. I did believe that Huda was into him. Like, he seemed like Huda's type to a T. You know, you see Jeremiah, you see him, like, definitely her type. But I never saw him and Huda being a romantic thing, you know? And also, too, he was asked about the 3-2-1. Like, remember when him and Huda were in the bed and she talked to him like that? He was like, look, like, we literally had, like, 2 hours, like by the time they went to bed. So they don't know, again, this is interesting, the Islanders don't know what time it is in the villa at all, right? Like, they have no concept of time. And I think Chris said in his interview that like Pepe figured out, I mean, like, this isn't a rocket science for someone to figure out, but like Pepe kind of could figure out what the time was based on where the sun was. I'm like, don't you know that? Like, that's literally, like, everyone knows that. But anyways, I was like, it sounded like earth shattering when he said it. But he basically said that like when they went to bed that night, it was already daylight, and like they basically like knew that it was already daylight, so they would only have like a few hours to sleep. I think he said they only slept for like 2 hours or something. So he was like, I just wanted to sleep. Like, the fact that she wanted to use the time, the minimal amount of time for us to sleep by like, you know, doing business, he was like, I had none of that because I genuinely needed sleep. And I value my sleep. So, like, also, too, the fact that she, like, counted him down 3-2-1 is also not going to turn the guy on. Again, like, I don't think Alex asked about that in the interview. No, she didn't. Again, like, that's a huge moment. Like, why wouldn't Alex have asked, you know, what made you count him down 3-2-1? Again, it's just, maybe we'll see it at the reunion. I don't know. To me, again, it's just, like, the way that she talked to him and treated him, it just goes to show that, like, I don't know, maybe she just likes being in a toxic relationship. And, like, that's, again, where I'm like, Chris just seems so opposite to that. So the fact that he entertained it, to me, was just, like, he, you know, didn't, like, he wanted to be on the show. And that's kind of what I thought the whole time of, like, he wanted to be on the show. He didn't really, you know, wasn't into her. I never thought he was into her. And even in the last episode where he was willing to make it work and she even broke up with him was crazy to me, because I always thought that he was going to do the breaking up because he wasn't into her. So anyways, that's kind of his interview in a nutshell. Like I said, like, it wasn't earth shattering. It was literally everything that we knew, with exception of the kind of those few, you know, little tea moments here and there that, again, like, because it wasn't like a big bomb, I feel like that dropped. Like, I feel like a lot of people just aren't talking about it. And also, too, like, it's Chris. So obviously people are going to be talking about Huda's interview versus Chris's interview. What I did though find was interesting is like, if you watch Chris's interview first, and that's what I did. I actually watched his interview first before watching Huda's. He was talking about Huda in such a nice light. And then I go to Huda's interview and she's bashing the guy. So it's funny, if you were to watch Huda's interview first, see her bashing him, and then listen to his and him talking really positively. Anyways, regardless, like it's just, it just shows like she's showing her true colors. Obviously, she's always shown her true colors. She's never hidden the person that she is. And yeah, anyways, let's move on. Last but not least, Olandria and Chelley. This interview was interesting to me because I didn't understand why they both interviewed together. This was with Keke Palmer, and I've actually never listened to Keke Palmer's interviews before, but I thought she was so high energy. Like, my gosh, there was a lot of energy in this interview. But I don't know why they interviewed together. Like, every Islander, like big Islander, has done a solo interview. Maybe it was just for comfort. Maybe it was just, you know, they felt better, you know, being together. I don't know what it was. But I also, too, like, it was an hour long. So, like, we didn't really, like, there wasn't tea. Honestly, this was very surface level. Everything in this interview, we already knew pretty much. And if you think about it, right, like, there's two of them. It's an hour long. So you're kind of getting, like, maybe 30 minutes each person, which really isn't a lot of time when you look at Huda, who had 2 hours, literally 2 full hours to talk about her entire life, you know? So I don't know. I don't know why they, you know, why they interviewed together, but then I also don't know why it was so short. The one thing that I'll say about Keke's interview that was frustrating for me, and again, it's my first time ever listening to a Keke Palmer interview, was that I feel like she is such a fan of the show. So what I found that she was doing was that she would ask them the question, would then cut them off as they're answering, and then answer the question herself. So, like, we didn't really even get to hear them talk that much because she already kind of knew the answer to the question and would kind of finish their answer. Like, she did so much talking. This is my issue. Like, as a host, you are bringing a guest on. Like, let your guest talk. I don't understand why these hosts don't let their guests talk. That's what I think Alex did a good job of with Huda and with Amaya. She just let them talk. I mean, she let Huda talk. Huda talked for literally 2 hours, right? Like, I don't know. Like, Keke was literally just, and then she would ask them, like, a good question. Like, she would ask them about the heart rate challenge, let's just say. And, you know, they would say, oh, yeah, like I said, Chelley said, oh, you know, I think Huda kind of just wanted to do her thing. And, you know, she just wanted her moment. And Olandria was like, no, like, I think Huda, and I think it was rightfully so that Chelley felt the way that she did with the heart rate challenge and why she felt upset. And then Keke would just move on. Like, she would be like, oh, okay, and then move on. Like, I'm like, okay, but what happened during the heart rate challenge? Like, ask the questions. Like, did Huda sit on Ace's face? Like, the public thinks this is what's happened. Like, she just would literally ask one question. They would say a surface level answer, and then she would move on. And again, I don't know if it's because she was told you only have an hour with them. So she was just trying to get all of the questions asked that she wanted to ask. But yeah, she did a lot of the talking and was answering a lot of the questions. You know, some takeaways that I had was that Chelley, I thought this was interesting. Chelley was scouted for season 6, and she, I guess, said no during season 6, which, again, when you think about how good season 6 was, like, to me, it's so interesting to think that, like, Chelley could have been a part of that, and then who would not have been a part of season 6? Like, I can't imagine any of those key people in season 6 not being there, like Leah, like Janae, like Serena, right? So I'm like, when you think about it, it's weird to think that, like, there could have been a possibility that, like, one of those key people maybe wouldn't have been on the show. And same with Olandria. I thought this was very interesting. She was approached multiple times before actually saying yes. I believe she said she was asked for season 5 and season 6. And she said no both times, maybe even season 4, but I could be wrong. At least season 5 and 6. She said no both times. And then finally, season 7, she said yes. So again, this is where I'm like, why, there's a lot of people in the US, you know, like, why are they just honing in on these few people and just asking them multiple times? Like, if they say no once, then why do they continue to ask them again and again and again? Like, it's kind of like they have this pool of influencers, let's just say, that they have, and they reach out to them every single year hoping that maybe they say yes. That is my issue. First of all, I don't want to see any influencers next year. 0. I don't want to see any. I want to see regular old people with regular old followings. Like, Jeremiah had 46 people following him on TikTok. Let's bring people like that, you know? And which also is weird, though, because Jeremiah and Nick knew each other. So again, we need people that are not influencers and do not know each other. Like, that, it has to be a prerequisite, and that has a clean background. Like, they've done their due diligence. They've gone through all of their social media. Like, they've had a social media sleuths look up everything on them, and they have a very clean background, track record, overall, just a good person, you know? So anyways, I thought that was interesting because I'm just like, both of them have kind of similar experiences where they were asked in the past and said no, and all of a sudden in this season they said yes. But again, you know, you say yes after the blow up of season 6. Of course you did, because you saw what the opportunity was for you saying yes, what that could be for you. You know, they made it very clear that they said, both of them, that they wanted to be OGs. They didn't want to be on Bombshell. They didn't want to be a Casa girl, which I'm like, you actually have a say in that. You can actually be like, I want to be an OG. Even Huda, like, she was like, I was praying to the gods that I would be an OG. I want to be an OG. I want to be an OG. And it's interesting because you don't know. You all go to Fiji, and you don't know if you're going to be an OG, a Casa person, whatever. Like, so you could be literally in a hotel room for 2-3 weeks, which is crazy to me. Like, that just sounds like torture. Literal, like, torture, honestly. No phone, no nothing, right? And yeah, and that's why I get it. Like, of course you want to be an OG, and that really makes your chances better of, you know, first of all, maybe, yes, make it to the end, but obviously you have the biggest lasting impression with America because you are on their screens for longer. But look at Amaya. Amaya didn't come in until, what, at least a week and a half in, and she absolutely blew up as well. So I think that also goes to show that you don't have to be an OG, first of all, to win, but to also, you know, win America's hearts. You just have to be a good person. That truly is what it is, you know? And, okay, what else did Olandria say? Olandria talks about Clark. She talked about Sierra and Nick, and basically, you know, she says that, I don't know, I kind of don't know how Olandria feels about Clark. Like, in one breath, she, you know, was like, I thought Clark was sweet, and, you know, I got along with her in the villa. But then, like, kind of like under the same breath, kind of like said something negatively about Clark. So I don't know. I don't know if they're maybe just like cordial, or, you know, she's kind of like looking at them, her and Taylor, from afar. I think, honestly, as much as she doesn't want to admit it, I do think Olandria is bitter how everything played out, which is fine. You know, like, it's fine. And I think what was interesting, too, that she said was, like, our perception of Taylor, the way that Taylor treated her in the villa, is very different than, like, how Taylor actually treated her in the villa. Like, she was like, Taylor was, you know, was touchy with me. He was doing things for me. Like, he, like, made me believe that, like, he actually wanted to be with me. And it's interesting because we didn't see any of that. So it's kind of like, how did production, like, set all of that up so successfully in a way where it was like, we didn't see Taylor, like, had any of that, like, intimate connection with Olandria, and then boom, comes in Clark, and then, you know, makes sense for Taylor to be with Clark. And, you know, and then we see him, like, touchy-feely with Clark, doing all these nice things for her. Like, how did production know that, like, Taylor and Clark would have actually worked out? You know, I think that was so interesting that Olandria said, like, no, like, what you guys saw was not actually what happened in the villa. Like, he was doing all those nice things for me. Like, he was actually, like, touchy-feely with me. It's interesting. I don't know, but maybe also, too, like, her version of, like, nice things and, like, touchy-feely is it, like, maybe their shoulders were touching. Like, I don't know. I just don't know how, like, and why production didn't show that side of Taylor for, like, 3 weeks. It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. Maybe Olandria is right. Maybe she kind of is maybe making things up in her head. I don't know. Like, why would Olandria be lying about that? But at the same time, I also feel like it's kind of odd that, like, for 3 weeks, production was, like, changing the narrative of, like, what actually was happening in the villa versus what we were seeing, and, like, making Olandria, like, not making us believe that Taylor liked Olandria that much, for then, you know, Clark to come in, and then they changed the storyline so much that, like, look at all the nice things he's doing for Clark. Look at how he's touching Clark, and he never did that with Olandria. Like, I don't know. Maybe they're just really good at, you know, painting, which they are, obviously. They're really good at painting storylines and stuff like that. But, like, how did they know that for 3 weeks leading up to Clark coming? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. There's so many unknowns. And one thing that I find, you know, could you imagine if they did, they would never, obviously, but, like, if they did something like Big Brother, like, there's live feeds for Big Brother 24 hours, pretty much. Like, you can't see the competitions. There's certain things that you can't see, but you're watching the live feeds. And that, could you imagine if they had live feeds for Love Island? That would be insane. Like, insane. I actually think that would be so cool and would totally change up the nature of the show. It would be wild, but I think it would kind of defeat the purpose of the show, because, I mean, editing does play such a big part of it, and I think production does want us to believe certain things through the editing, and I think if they were to just bring in live feeds, it, like, that just strips away, you know, the whole nature of the show, in a sense of, like, we're able to see kind of everything, and we're able to see conversations and chats. And if you notice Love Island, a lot of the conversations are very spliced up, very cut up, and they do it on purpose because they want us to believe a certain storyline. And I think if they were to bring in live feeds, I think that would, I mean, they wouldn't ever, but I mean, I think it would be a cool element because we're able to see everything in every conversation, and all of these little spliced up conversations or, like, actions and everything that we're seeing, but then the Islanders, like, no, that never happened. Like, that actually, you know, that would never happen. So I do think, look, all the Islanders have to watch the show. That needs to happen for them to be on the reunion, because, again, like, I want them to talk about what we actually saw versus their experience, because it is two separate things, right? Like, we're seeing an edited show. They were in Fiji for 6 weeks straight. And yes, we got 5 episodes a week, 5-6 episodes a week, but they're an hour and a half long every single day, 24 hours in a day, right? Like, you're not seeing everything. Live feeds could be a really cool element. Again, like I said, it's not going to happen, obviously, but I don't know. It could be cool. You never know. So anyways, that was some of the key interviews that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, like I said, Olandria and Chelley, like, not much really happened in that interview. It was just fun. Like, it was fun energy, good vibes, but not really much tea spilling whatsoever. If you do want any tea spilling, you got to tune in for the reunion, because I think that is where we're going to get the tea spilled. I also think, like, certain people have unfollowed each other on social media. Like, Olandria and Chelley, I don't believe, follow Huda, and vice versa. Huda and Amaya have gotten really close, so I think people now are forming their friendships, and I think there's going to be a lot of drama. Like, I think there's going to be so much drama at the reunion. I am very, very excited about it. So I will be back before you know it, because I am going to be talking about Perfect Match, which I believe starts August 1st. And I have to be very honest, I have watched Perfect Match here and there. I don't think I've ever finished a full season, but I'm going to be recapping it because I am so excited for the people that are on this season. Like, the cast is so good. You have Clayton from The Bachelor. You have Rachel, who was on his season, that, like, if you know The Night from Hell, oh my God, like, it is going to be tea. I can't wait. It is a really good cast. I'm very excited. I'm going to be recapping that show for sure. I'm very excited for all of the Netflix reality shows that are coming out. I feel like I gravitate a lot towards recapping the Netflix shows. I don't know why. I feel, you know what, maybe it'd be too, because they drop a few at a time. You know, you don't have to maybe wait a week. It's an easy watch. I think for me, what's hard, like I really wanted to recap Big Brother, but I think with Big Brother, it's like, there's the live feeds. Like it's two shows in the sense of like you see what you see on TV, 3 times a week, but then there's live feeds 24 hours every single day. Like I can't keep up with that. So for me, I'm like, yes, I love the show and I would love talking about it, but if I'm not keeping up with the live feeds, then what am I really talking about, right? Like I feel like I would have to keep up with everything, which I'm not going to do. So I think people that recap Big Brother, they, everyone knows if you're into Big Brother, you know exactly, like Rob has a podcast that is the podcast to listen to. They absolutely kill it in recapping Big Brother. They literally Taryn recaps every single live feed every single day. Like that is serious, like the Lord's work, honestly. So I honestly am very excited to recap a new show. I haven't done Perfect Match yet. So I'm excited. So stay tuned for that in the next coming days. So that'll do it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please rate, subscribe, review, do all of the things. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at yourrealitycheck.pod. And I cannot wait to chat with you in the next episode.